Hey parents, today is all about sensory processing. I had a lot of moms come up to me lately and ask, why their kiddo is struggling with certain types of clothing that has collars or tight jeans, why their kiddo is struggling with getting a haircut, or why their kiddo is struggling with loud noises or tough transitions like bath time and bedtime. And while those may seem like small challenges, they actually are really big challenges and have a really big impact in your family's life. So many parents are looking for answers to their kiddos struggling with sensory processing issues. And so that's why I wanted to do this video today, is to really get into why those sensory struggles are happening and exactly what you can do about them. So, if you're a parent who is struggling with maybe an older toddler who's starting preschool or pre K, or maybe starting kindergarten in the fall, who's getting overwhelmed by crowded restaurants, or maybe loud rooms, or maybe they are having a hard time brushing their hair and brushing their teeth. Maybe they're having emotional outbursts, or maybe they just are having trouble going to birthday parties, or transitioning to sleep. Those are all things that we're going to put together in this video, to give you hope and answers and help for your kiddo. So I'm gonna switch screens here. And I want to walk you through this picture that we use with a lot of our patients and with our parents, that really walks parents through why their kiddo is struggling in the first place. So much of these sensory processing challenges start during their sensory building phases, right through here. And any external symptoms that show up aren't really going to show up until we get up towards the top, that 2, 3, 4 age range. And this is exactly why. So these bottom three phases are what we call sensory building phases, and they are the foundation for what a kid needs to go through in order to get those higher level processes on track. So the root cause is very often right when that sensory system starts to become engaged and starts to become acclimated. And that can happen as far back as in utero, even the labor and delivery process, and then their first experiences with the environment around them. Now, when that starts to happen, when their sensory system is really getting organized and activated during this time, it can go one of two ways. It can go easily and smoothly and calmly, and that activates the kiddo's parasympathetic nervous system. And that allows them to really be able to take that sensory information in, process it in an organized, calm, and relaxed way, and then act accordingly or respond accordingly. Um, that's the parasympathetic nervous system's general response. Now, the other way it could happen is the opposite. If there is stress early on during those in utero phases, time, or if there is stress during delivery, like inductions or vacuum extractions or C-sections, those things can cause physical stress to the baby, to their nervous system. And that shifts their nervous system. It actually changes their brain to be stickier towards that sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight nervous system. Now, what this looks like in a kiddo is maybe they're a little more refluxy. Maybe they're a little more stiff or rigid. Maybe they're arching their back and seem a lot less comfortable. Maybe they're not sleeping well. And this causes babies to be more sensitive to sensory info or information coming in. They are on that sensory overdrive, that sympathetic overdrive. And that builds into the next step, which is latching, their ability to eat, their calming, which is their ability to sleep, and then their plumbing, which is the ability to push things out. So not being constipated, right? Those are the three things early in life in their infancy that those kiddos are responsible for: eating, sleeping, and pooping. And so when we start to see struggles in those areas, that gives us an idea that something might be off with that developmental process. Because then what shows up is once they hit that 4-month mark, that 5-month mark, that 6-month mark, and now they're starting to really incorporate movement into their life. Maybe they're starting to roll over. Maybe they're starting to sit up and crawl. Maybe they're starting to even walk when they get a little older. And so it's usually right in here, right at this time, where if some of those things did not come online, if the rolling maybe didn't happen, and maybe the crawling didn't happen, or it was modified like butt scooting or army crawling, or if they were a late walker, that's when we really start to see the sensory integration struggles really start to come out, especially now when we get to 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. And then they start getting into those social and emotional and behavioral situations where they have to really figure out, what kind of behavior should I be having right now? How should I handle my emotions? What should I do in this social situation? And how should I regulate those behaviors? Because what we know and what we have found is that if any of these lower foundational things are not online, or if they were delayed or missed, then it makes it so much harder for these higher level things to come online. Because what we know is that these lower things are easier. They're subconscious developmental phases. They don't really have to pay attention for those things to come about. And so once they get to the more difficult, higher level things where their brain is having to really struggle and figure out what's going on, that's when those sensitivities and those struggles and the sensory processing challenges really, really set up shop. And then we start to notice and want help with them. And so really the key here is that when nerves fire together, they wire together. So any kind of stress, going back to whether it was during pregnancy or whether it was a difficult delivery or labor process, any kind of stress early and often to that kiddo's nervous system will shift it towards that sympathetic mode. And so if those nerves are firing together, they are wiring together, and it makes their system more sensitive to stress going forward. So what seems like a simple bath time to us or a simple haircut is just sensory overload to these kiddos because their nervous system just wasn't developed and didn't have enough time to develop properly or to develop a proper response to that. So that's why in our office, we absolutely measure this. We have every kiddo go through a sensory scan so that we can really find and locate and analyze and figure out where that stress may have happened. Where in their story did that stress show up? And from the scans, it shows us where that stress finally settled and what we need to do to go about fixing it. So there's a ton more information on my website. There's a really great article about sensory integration and sensory processing disorders. So check it out, learn more, especially if you are a mom of a kiddo with these challenges, because the more that you learn, the more that you prep yourself, the more that you get yourself ready, the more able you are going to be to handle and help your child through some of these struggles. So send me a message, ask me any questions that you feel or that came to you during this. And please, more than anything, share this with another mom who has a kiddo that's struggling with this. Share this in your mom groups because so many kiddos are struggling with this that don't have to be. When we can really start to shift their shift their nervous system back off of that sympathetic mode and towards that brake pedal, that absolutely changes what their neurology is capable of doing. And so those struggles, those emotional outbursts, those loud rooms or restaurants, those birthday parties, those haircuts and bath times and bedtimes do not have to be the struggle that maybe you're used to, that maybe you've seen in your kiddo. And the great part about that is once the nervous system regulates and those behaviors and sensitivities have started to balance out, you get to really see your kiddo's true personality come out and shine. And that is just the greatest part of being a parent. It's the greatest part of my job as a pediatric and family chiropractor, is that we get to see those kiddos really come to life and not have to worry about the fog and the struggle that those sensitivities bring with it. So share this, send me a message, give our office a call. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.